Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to honor past games because I feel like time goes by so fast. And there's this concept in the chess community. I don't know if Yamato created it, but that's where I got my inspiration from, where there are certain games that are called immortal games, meaning immortal games, meaning games that are memorable for a foreseeable future and are often associated with said player. And those are usually some really insane games that are remembered. Obviously, in the context of League, I think story and the context of everything around it is so important due to the nature of the game. We have many patches, we have many players that are involved creating those moments. So it's important that I give you guys all the context that I can give. The more knowledge I can pour into this, the more fun I will have. You guys let me know which player we're going to do next. For now, the first choice that came to my mind, I wanted to start off with Ruler. So I posted the thread kind of expecting the answer to be just this particular moment in time that everybody remembers, this moment where Ruler flashes onto Faker, ults him to define this death of the SKT era of League of Legends. But, of course, there's so much more to it than just that. When I looked into it and I started to think about the context of what Samsung managed to achieve, they managed to beat their biggest nightmare. SKT was a team that everyone feared because they won the World Championship 2015, they won the World Championship 2016, and everyone, including me at the time, assumed that SKT are just gonna make it happen again. Because there was something about them where no matter what, they managed to find a situation where they just won. Whether it was through some superior team fighting or Faker just plainly overperforming or Huni at the time overperforming. So it always felt like it was set in stone that even in a situation where Samsung was 2-0 up, that SKT might break down the glass house that Samsung was living in at the time. But Samsung managed to achieve something so beautiful, and it starts already in 2016. They got 3-2 by SKT in the final, and then they proceeded, and SKT was forever haunting them. I can paint a very big story about that LCK season, but the gist of it was Longzhu made some upgrades in some of their positions. I believe that they added Kaz to the roster, they added Khan to the roster, and they added as well, if I remember correctly, was it BDD? Maybe we should just double check that so we're not crazy. We have the rosters right here. BDD, Prey, Gorilla, Kaz, and Khan. So the additions was Khan, Kaz, and BDD. In spring they didn't do too much, and they also added Kim. Coach Kim is a coach that is known to really get the most out of his top laners, because if you think of the top laners he worked with, it was T1, Kana, the Shy, Khan in his prime. You know, this man managed to get the most out of his top laners somehow. I was looking into it a little bit deeper, and it seems like he's just teaching his top laners how to play Jace. But nevertheless, the story of this series here and this playoffs was that SKT was plowing through everything. They 3-0'd Samsung. So they 3-0'd Samsung, and a big part of this series was SKT playing a lot of Kalista. And Kalista is something that was 100% pick and ban at the World Championship tournament without any nerfs or bans or buffs. People just realized the power of this champion. So Samsung fell short here. They lost 2 games against a very powerful Kalista. SKT managed to 3-2 KT, and this was a KT. Keep in mind, this KT roster, when I'm going to show you guys this KT roster, is going to blow your mind. This KT roster was the super roster you had the super roster with Smeb, Score, Pawn, Deft, Mata. This is a monster roster. So SKT 3-2 them, and then Longzhu wins the final against SKT off of the back of insane Khan performances on the champion that is Jace. Right? That context is very important. The key champion there, Jace. SKT qualified to the World Championship, Longzhu qualified to the World Championship, and then finally, of course, you had the regional qualifier. Coming into this regional qualifier, similar to the style of what was, DRX in this year, everyone had the expectation that KT is going to be the one to make it through. They had the monster roster. Once again, I can keep showing this roster. This was, Deft, and they didn't even manage to qualify to the World Championship with this roster. 2018, I believe they made an adjustment in the mid lane, and they managed to go 3-2 against IG in the quarterfinals. Some people call that 2018 the real final. That was a very, very crazy series, and I'm sure that we have some players Immortal game in that series as well. But that is a story for a different time. Samsung managed to conquer, they managed to get through, and they managed to qualify to the World Championship. So even coming into the World Championship, they were kind of limping in. Everyone kind of reserved themselves to not get too excited. At the World Championship, we had the group stage. And even in this context, Samsung Galaxy managed to get in 4-2. This was the group with G2. If you guys remember, Perks was really, really trying hard to carry his team into, of course, the playoffs. But here Samsung Galaxy actually dropped 2 games against RNG. Samsung Galaxy managed to get the 2nd seed, and they are up against Longzhu. So this is Longzhu, okay? Longzhu that just won the LCK, 6-0'd their group, and looked very, very dominant. Very dominant. Very dominant. We scroll down and look at the bracket. Very dominant. Samsung managed to piece it together. They have a very good read on the meta. Very strong read on the meta. They remove the Jace. They make sure that Janna is not picked. And the Samsung way of playing the game is beginning to form. A very bot lane centric meta that no longer puts Longzhu in a position where they can really, really showcase their biggest weapon and strength, which was Khan. Of course, Gorilla and Prey were very serviceable, but they were kind of the old generation of those AD carries that would set up those bot lanes that would really, really set up their teammates for success. And Samsung, with of course Core JJ and Ruler in the bot lane, were really excelling in this meta. Afterwards, Samsung playing against World Elite. World Elite were very quick to figure out their strength. They were the first team to play pretty much Gragas, Janna, Caitlyn, take 3 camps on Gragas, go straight into bottom side and just siege and never let go. A jungler that just didn't farm, just queued and battled under the turret and made sure that as long as Caitlyn and Janna doesn't get ganked and they get pushed and they harass under the tower, the game is going to be finished. The World Elite was looking quite spicy themselves too, but Samsung beat them as well. And then coming into the final, SKT was of course the clear favorite. SKT was kind of limping in. They came in off of the back of a crazy Galio series from Faker, and SKT they didn't have an easy tournament either, because all the way through you could see some glimpses of pain and hurt that we also saw a little bit at MSI and also in the regular season in the summer split of the LCK. We had the series against Misfits, is of course so legendary as well, where Ignar played the Fervor of Battle, Leona, to engage on those melee supports and creating a lot of chaos. We had the Orianna with the Ardent Sensor and a lot of other crazy things going on in that series. But finally we had SKT versus Samsung. So in the context of what the game was at the time, we had many different many things that were different. I started thinking about it. It's like, what was the main thing that was different? Season 7, we had tracking knife, so the game was a lot more stable. You could create situations where after the first clear, it was kind of hard to set up ganks. It was also quite difficult to set up dives because everything was quite predictable. and most of the time, with the context of everyone having a TP, TP that is not bound by a 14-minute timer, making those aggressive decisions was much more difficult. The tracking knife is a jungling item that allowed you to put 2 wards on the map, and this was the era of controlled Korean League of Legends still. The keystones were very different. You had things like Thunderlords, you had Strength of the Colossus, I believe it called. There was no plants. I believe that jungle wasn't reworked until after this. Basically, like, you still had the old camps, you didn't have the Raptors, you had the Wraiths. You had, in the context of the meta, everything at this tournament was revolving around the bot lane. Because what's interesting is, even though Ardent Sensor, right? So here, this was a change, right? But the funny thing about this precisely was that the buff wasn't super big. It was just something that people recognized that this item was very, very broken. And then in the aftermath of the tournament, of course, the item was very nerfed. So what was crazy about this item was that regardless of your level, the power was the same. And at the same time, it allowed you to drain your enemies. It gave you insane DPS. It gave you insane attack speed. And it was just such a big boost in DPS and also survivability, because it actually allowed you to drain HP. You had on-hit healing. In regards to the support pool at the tournament, it was heavily favored towards Janna's direction. If you look at what was going on with the AD carries at the tournament, everything was kind of hovering around 50%, and most of the time what was defining in the pick rate was Kalista. Kalista was banned 100% of the games at the World Championship main stage. That is 80 games, 0 picks, 80 bans, 100% presence, which is quite crazy, right? Sometimes you have teams that leave open Yuumi, and there's a couple of games that are being played against Yuumi. But here, there was complete agreement, we need to ban this champion no matter what on red side. You see that both AD carries are not running cleanse. Not running cleanse against Varus, against Sejuani, not running cleanse against Leona as the Varus player. This is not something you would see in modern League of Legends. It would just give the opponent way too many opportunities to not run cleanse. And we can see in this game if it's true. Should he have run cleanse? Would it have been better? Or is Barrier just plainly OP? I remember that Barrier was quite strong in this patch. Like, Barrier was very, very strong. And the thing is, you have to buy Ardent Sensor, right? So Mikael's Crucible would be a very late item to be purchased. Here the trades, you have the Barrier being used here on the all-in, Thorn Shield for both AD carries. We have a split map situation, but I believe that Gragas should cross into his own camps, because I think giving up his own bot side camp when this is the bot lane matchup is not a good thing to do, even in this season. Because yeah, sure, Gragas is clearing away, but his clear speed is not that fast. He's crossing into his own jungle. Gragas is now setting up for the gank on top. Cuvée managed to be in a situation where he's pushing the wave, and this is of course a timing gank that we still see today. You know, that gank on that cannon wave. If a player is pushing, they want to hard shove that cannon wave, they want to crash that cannon wave, look to base. Sometimes you get to T to base in, and then you do it. But here this time around, Cuvé's lane management doesn't fit the context of the game. But at the same time, right, it's like he gets to TP back, Trundle needs to TP back, and you're in a situation where Gragas ganks you, but he's investing a lot of time. Investing a lot of time in order to gank him. And this gives, of course, Varus, Lulu, a lot of freedom. They get to breathe, they don't get ganked, and that's what it is. Another thing to point out, right, is that junglers, as I mentioned before, they're going to both have the tracking knife, but also the CS is counted very differently on the jungle. So it's going to look very strange. They're going to take a blue, they're going to take a Gromp, and they're going to have 2 CS. Karma is good into Malzahar. She can easily clear the little voidlings. A little tip for you guys that are playing lane against Malzahar and don't understand how to beat him, it's important to just kill the voidling so he can't push and he can't, restack his E. Here we have the W. Karma, of course, is a strong pick into Malzahar, because you're in a situation where You W, you break the shield, and then by the time the shield is off, you're going to be able to root and you're going to have a good time. Here though, Malzahar dying out here is not the greatest. You can see here as well that Karma has a very easy itemization path. Cuva being very pressured on the tower, Karma just leveraging her prio. She has a very decent item path here. The Chalice gives you infinite mana. You have a lot of magic resistance in the game already because the enemy team is very magic damage heavy, so it makes a lot of sense and it works. And we mentioned before that Talia and Gali are very strong in this meta. Anything that can push and roam, you love to have that on your team. Towers fell very easily, they didn't have platings. You could set up situations where you're the one pressuring quite easily. But during all of this, when the camera has been showing mid lane and showing bot side, what Sejuani has been doing is just securing bot. She is just securing bot. And as long as Varus and Lulu are pushing and harassing under the tower and they are the one generating gold, generating coins, Samson is happy. This is the main thing that matters for them. Tristana had to give up now her situation, she based first. And now you have the Mercury Threads buy for Varus because he doesn't have cleanse, he needs some form of tenacity. It is not something that you could just easily grab in runes like you could, but it was quite deep in the defense tree if I remember correctly. Yeah, Karma is pretty decent into Malzahar. Malzahar lane phase is not the strongest, but at some point Malzahar can make the lane very non-interactive. This is usually the hope for every Malzahar lane. But Karma can easily just Q at the Voidlings and make sure that he has to interact, and that's where he puts himself in danger, especially now when Crown doesn't have, of course, his flash. It's even more dangerous. And QV already lost his tower, he got roamed on twice by the Karma, gave out the split map, Gragas ganks. Here, Karma, you could see he broke the plant. Ambition was going quite deep here on the situation. And here we have the Trundle TP. Let's take a step back here, slow down and pull up some volume, because this seems to be a very big fight here.
Even if the lane itself hasn't looked good, they're looking to get more out of Wolf to find the ultimates, to find the engages. We're not done watching them on a fight yet.
Oh, definitely not. Faker's down here. We have Blank on the way.
Because the Emax Varus hurts a lot actually.
Just kills the blast cone to avoid aggression from the side of Samsung.
Ambition is in the jungle, seems like the cast is not noticing. Very important interrupt there and the heal from Tristana. Not sure what CodeJJ flashed here for. Very favorable outcome here for SKT. They get away with 2 kills, they defend their camps, and a lot of key summoners being used too. Like no flash from Varus, no flash from Lulu is a very big deal, considering, you know, you're the one playing against the Leona, you're the one playing against the Trundle. Malzahar also getting dove here off of the back of that. SKT is in a very dominant position. Another thing to highlight, there is no soul. There's no soul. The Drakes actually give you minor, like they give you some buffs. The Mountain actually gives you true damage on objectives, if I remember correctly. And what Dragons basically did was, after a certain time in the game, Elder Dragon would begin to spawn. And when it would begin to spawn, depending on how many Drakes you have when you take it, the more powerful it would be. CodeJJ now is out and about. He is chilling, but the Lulu ult is huge. Allows him to survive. Kind of taking a strange pathing there for Malzahar, but it didn't matter. He ended up not being caught in the end. Ooh. Barry's OP, I guess. Karma's TPing bot, and you can see that Faker is doing everything that he can to win this game. Like, this man is all over the place, and maybe in some places where he shouldn't be too, because this is looking very dangerous. Malzahar's gonna pick that up, giving that, I want to say shutdown, but I don't even know if shutdown was actually a thing at this point in time. Huni breaking the full tower, Cho'Gath also TPing onto the bot turret to chase away the bot lane. Everything is just funneled into the Varus and the Lulu. Like here, they're literally giving up a tier 2, they're giving up the Rift Herald that only spawns at 14-minute mark. I believe there's only one Rift Herald in the game at the time. you are looking to create a circumstance where Varus and Lulu can play the game. You know that Varus are getting pushed off. Jesus, we need to send all of our artillery into both sides. If Trundle gets ahead, we will deal with that later. As long as our AD carry is strong, we will be able to figure that out. So here, coming into this Ocean Drake, you can see that Varus doesn't have his, I want to say, mythic item, which in theory it is, Ginzu. So this was a very different type of Ginzu than the one you guys know today. And this was a Ginzu that gave you on-hit damage, and also it stacked. So basically it gave you attack speed depending on the stacks, and then on the maximum stacks, then you got the Ginzu, you know, the ghost spectral hit, meaning your abilities, your on-hit effects would trigger twice. This was also Morello, not the Morello that everyone hates today. This was a Morello that gave you healing reduction, but it gave you 100 AP and also 20% cooldown reduction. So this was a very crazy, strong item. And this item was very strong. Gold-wise, they are sitting not too shabby, right? Considering all of the gold they got on board with the tower, Varus being ahead on CS, Karma also giving up a lot of CS on mid. The conditions of the Varus and the Lulu are looking very good. You see a 700 gold advantage on the Lulu. These are all the coins she has been collecting, right? This is important to highlight. Tracker's Knife, there's so many wards in this game due to, of course, the tracking knife and also the ruby side stone. This is something that anyone could buy in the game. You didn't need to achieve any condition. You could buy the warding stone item on anyone, I believe, unless I'm crazy. Because I remember buying this shit on Dr. Mundo. Maybe it's something they changed later, because my memory is from very late. Let's go back here on the fight. Let's listen into the casters once again.
How they want to find victory. And again here, in this team composition specifically, it is going to be the exact same one as they collaborate around mid lane here and try and force SKT back. Huni is left to run rampant around the bottom side.
The Red himself trying to be answered by the Cho'Gath as well for the QV. And looks like the Red goes cleanly over to Huni, walks away with an extra buff steal, 2,000 gold difference.
And it's hard for Samsung right now to force this fight because SKT can just back.
That's a righteous glory on Cho'Gath. This Herald is looking really funky. Ooh, Ruler had to flash. He flashed. He got a lot of value out of that flash though. Ooh. Wow, the Righteous Glory slow is basically a root.
SKT had no reason to force this fight. They are winning the split push war. Just delay the game.
Yeah, the main thing here is that in that fight that you had a situation where of course a lot of shit was thrown at the Varus when already one spell was enough to force his flash. The Leona ult was enough and Blank didn't need to commit. And then Trundle's position, I think I agree with the official sentiment that I think there is nothing that Cho'Gath can do to pressure the Trundle off of the tower, and he can just keep hitting. So for those who don't know, Adaptive Helmet was an item that is insanely strong into the champions that have multiple damage instances from the same source, like a Cassio E or Malzahar E. Adaptive Helmet it also works against Varus passive. Ooh, this game is picking up pace. We need to slow down here because there's a lot of fighting going on.
Stack up on these wards. I want to see Faker, Bang, everyone control this Baron area. Otherwise, Samsung will take control again.
It's very scary too, because one of the most underrated parts of Trundle
because it's so scary to be playing the Varus in a situation where you don't have cleanse. You just have mercs, and that's what you're going to rely on, because Leona ult is quite easy to land. Here Leona is in a very good position. You see Cho'Gath is now crossing. The timing here, you see that Cho'Gath is crossing and showing on the top wave, and they are committing right away on the players that are sticking in river. You can see Wolf was hanging around the pink ward, making sure he's not on vision, and then when they crossed into that vision pocket, they found the engage right away. So here Cho'Gath is showing, and Samsung was taking the wrong path back into mid.
down. He's trying to answer teleport.
Sun's gonna land in the back line. Can they knock down Ruler? This one half HP on a hit. Knocked back to the wall once again. Hooney's in the mix. And he got the first kill. One carry is down. They're re-engaging, looking for Crown. This Malzahar not long for the world. Has flash. Doesn't matter. Double kill in for Bang in the chase out of the bot side. Looking. The flash forward can't quite get a mission, but 2-0 means a good chance at Baron or more of the map. A slow's gonna land in a Kube.
Oh, can he get away from this one?
There's not really a chance. He's got flash, for the rest of the squad is here.
This looks like a Nash situation.
Dying with dignity, 3 dead. SKT win the crucial team fight.
Crucial mistake there from Samsung.
SKT going into that Baron area and start playing around it with Hooney sitting in the side lane. As soon as Ruler shows up, there is no flash, and they just turn on him.
Now it's the battle for the Baron seal. The wards came down, but the similar switch coming in for SKT means it's Darkness and Faker taking the duty of zoning away Ambition. And at this point, he's given up the chase. There is no...
Yes, each consecutive damage from the same source of damage would do less percentage damage. So for example, Adaptive Helmet was very good against Corki basic attacks and rockets. It was very good against Cassiopeia E or Cassiopeia Q, because it's the same instance of damage. So that's how it worked. But Force of Nature, when you get attacked by different sources of magic, then it stacks and you take percentage reduced damage against everything, which is, of course, very strong. Yeah, this is a scary thing, right? Always when you don't have flash with Varus, dangerous game to be playing. You know, in the current day and age, I would always say that crit 80 carries, they outscale the likes of a Varus, due to him buying Ginzu, right? Ginzu is a spike on 2 items, while I use a spike on 3 items and it's a lot stronger, but it happens later on in the game. With this build, with this particular Ginzu, is just not quite as true, especially when you have the Lulu on your side. Lulu has received a lot of nerfs since this patch, I can tell you that. And Lulu was insanely OP here. You know, in a different world, you see the castles are not even excited at all about the dragons. They don't even mention them. So that's how kind of, you know, semi-pointless they were at the time. Even this Nasher buff, you know, you still have the Nasher up minions, but they're not really progressing the game as much. There's been a lot of changes done to the game to make them quicker. The tier 2s as well don't give as much gold as they did in the past, but this is a massive gold swing for SKT, right? They really blew up their lead and now they're close to 7,000 gold ahead. And they're going to reach that point where they're going to hit 3 core by the time everyone on Samsung is hitting 2 core, which is a very big difference in power. Wonder if, imagine if Huni had had that action with the current Ravenous Hydra, would have been hilarious. Banner of Command was later. Yeah, it's not super easy to crack the base. As long as Samsung remain patient, opportunities will come. The dangerous thing here is that there is no QSS on Karma. If Malzahar decides to ult the Gragas of the Trundle, there's still some counterplay. Of course, Karma could be in the thought process that any ability on his team can easily cancel the Malzahar ult. It's a very tough game to play Malzahar because every champion except Karma has a way of cancelling you, so it is not the easiest game for you to find a lot of value. Due to the damage profile though of SKT, it does make itemization a lot easier for Sejuani and Cho'Gath. They don't have magic resistance and they're sitting on 1 core, but in this particular game they can definitely get away with it due to Tristana being the majority of the DPS and a lot of the other champions just providing a lot of crowd controls. The Mercs are enough to deny a lot of the potency of these champions. Of course, Tristana with the Ardent Sensor is going to do some sense of magic damage, but it definitely makes it a lot easier. Yeah, main thing here, you know, like Samsung isn't as stressed to pull the trigger or to make something happen, just because SKT getting this Infernal Drake is not that big of a deal. Ooh.
The knockback on a Ruler, the continued CC, but only as slow as he's going to get away for now. They're re-engaged out of Samsung Galaxy. Can they knock down Blank as Ambition holds the front line? Then Hooney's in, gets the ulti out of Malzahar, but staying alive.
Oh, Ruler.
Then in a Kube trying to trade tanks back and forth.
Oh, Cube survives 1 HP.
Big shield and a heal and a run back at SKT. No dash on either side.
Everyone is is so low though. Important here for SKT. They forced the flash away from Ruler, so for the next fight, they can target him again.
Bang on the 3 out of spike.
There we go!
Oh.
Notice the flash in, there's no follow-up in it. It's almost gonna be the kill. Yes, they knocked down and blanked the rupture, all they needed.
A bit too fast.
Up with the body slam. Flash did nothing for SKT.
So Blank smurfed and then he didn't smurf anymore. Because the mindset you would have in the current day and age would be, we burned Varro's flash, he's not gonna have flash, we're gonna have Gragas ult for the Nashor that is spawning, and we're going to be able to cement the game there, you know? But they were looking to squeeze more. Adding souls to the game I think is very beneficial. I think it's very good. I like it a lot. Not gonna lie. 3 items on Varus. Key thing here, Ruler has no flash. That is going to be the thing that might be the difference maker. Wolf throws the ultimate, he gets the stun. Oh, the Gragas ult. Wow. Did you guys see the Varus ult rooted everybody? So Wolf lands the ultimate on the guy who has no flash, no cleanse. And then basically the Varus ultimate stops the Leona from being in range to EQ to follow up off of the Leona ult. But then the Gragas throws the ultimate and Ruler is allowed to walk just a little frame here that pushes him away. Actually, it's the Tristana ult that pushes him away. Oh my goodness. Let's watch this in slow motion. So we have the Gragas ult. Does the pillar cancel the Gragas ult? No. I think Varus would clip into this wall of the Gragas ult. But then Tristana shoves him away. He shoves him away. And then now Tristana is rooted by the Varus ultimate. The redemption lands and then Cho'Gath walks in here and he's a hungry hippo. He drops the feast. He's level 16 and the Varus Q goes through and then the fight is lost. Wow. That is huge. That is huge. Crazy. Crazy how Ruler survives over this Leona ultimate. The Malzahar ult can't smite. When in Malzahar ult. And all things considered, right, you had a situation where QV was being very pressured, where Crown was very pressured, but the composition... Yeah, that's when the soul was added according to patch notes on Wiki. 2020 season. Yeah, okay. Wow. This is, the ambition also flashed on Faker, but... Wow, they're just deathballing through. This Tristana's not doing damage on these tanks with Randuin's Omen. Seems like Samsung just figured out the patch. All hug your AD carry, your overlord. Oh, Ruler, you madman with the barrier. He knows his limits. Oh, so well. Look at that, that's crazy. Every time someone dies, you get a coin. See those coins that dropped on the ground? Oh.
Cuvée, but a manaless Cho'Gath is not a threat. They're going to keep chasing. The chomp is in. They're in.
Gets the base off.
SKT will hold on.
This game is insane. SKT just managed to defend. Eventually they kill Cuvée.
Holy shit.
And buy a bit more time, but there are no Nexus turrets.
And there's an Elder Dragon.
The Sustaina's not doing any damage to these tanks with 300 armor each. There's so much peel in the traditional sense of them being able to keep everyone off of Varus and them just being better at shredding tanks is what is the difference maker at this point. Malzahar's early game conditions don't matter anymore. Cho'Gath's early game conditions don't matter anymore, and it's all about compositional strength. And Samsung are looking fucking strong. There it is. So look at the follow-up.
In the moment of truth, they flash on Faker, and they take out the heart of SK Telecom.
Faker had no flash when the fight started. They knew that, so they used everything to kill him.
A game-winning pick, a championship-winning pick for Ruler. That might be the Flash R. That signals the end of the SKT dynasty. There are no turrets. It is 5 versus 3. Huni, do you have what it takes to win the game? Bang certainly does not. Ruler on the Nexus. The upset is complete as the kills come through. The SKT dynasty is over. All hail the new kings. Samsung Galaxy, your 2017 World Champions.
Shit, man.
What a deserved walkout. The deafening cheers of tens of thousands of cheering Chinese fans. Samsung Galaxy, the only team to ever dethrone SKT at Worlds. They do it on the biggest stage the league has ever seen.
And they do it in the biggest way. 3-0 versus SK Telecom. You can see the emotion on the Samsung Galaxy players' faces. That is an entire year waiting to get back to this moment, waiting for the rematch, and they made it count.
Every single player talked about revenge against SKT, and they got it. Faker is destroyed.
And now it's relief on the side of Samsung, anguish on the side of SKT.
Shit, man.
Roma and Faker have won every single Worlds they attended until today.
This was the first best of 5 loss that SKT ever suffered in a World Championship. But there we have it. Ruler's Immortal game. Do you guys agree? Do you disagree? Let's let that last fight play one more time, because it is such a narrow thread. This entire game was so narrow, so disturbingly narrow, everything that went down. For them to come back in such a game, and the big fight at Nashor that Ruler managed to survive. They see here at the moment Ruler begins to posture forward because he knows that the Leona and the Gragas are out of position, and this is the moment where the flash comes in. And if you look at Faker's flash timer, it's such a perfect window for them to go, because as you can see, Faker doesn't have flash yet. To make it more clear, here you can see that the timer is ticking down. Here it's a little bit more visible. And now Ruler sees this opportunity where the Leona and the Gragas stepping into the mid bush, not in a position to respond. In a world where SKT or Faker potentially would have waited an additional second to have flash up to be able to flash the Varus ultimate, maybe this game would have played out different and maybe the series would have been different. But that is the beauty of the game, and that is where the pain lies, and that is also where all the good lies. I hope you enjoyed this piece of content where we took a trip down memory lane. Let me know which player we should look at next. Which player's Immortal game should we look at next? I was thinking Perks, I was thinking Faker, I was thinking Deft. There are so many names that you could easily bring up. And I believe that Samsung's story here to win the World Championship was very similar to the one of DRX. Just not as heavily publicized and not as heavily dramatized as it probably deserves. Because they broke down the T1 dynasty first. So thank you very much for watching.